Chapter 28, Mishnah 6. This Mishnah considers the law of a patch that became tamei with tumas midras, an avatuma, and was then sewn into a kli. The Mishnah teaches that it makes a difference whether the patch was sewn into a basket, which cannot receive tumas midras, or into a cloth, which can receive tumas midras. If a patch that was tamei with tumas midras, an avatuma, was sewn onto a basket, making the basket a rishon, the basket can transmit tuma to one and invalidate one. That is, since the basket is a rishon, it can cause one level of tuma transmission, i.e., if it touches food, the food becomes tamei as a sheni, and it can cause one further level of invalidation, i.e., if the food touches teruma, the teruma becomes invalid. If one then separates the patch from the basket remains a rishon and can therefore continue to transmit tuma to one level and invalidate one additional level, as explained above. However, the patch itself becomes tahor upon being separated from the basket. When the patch was sewn into the basket, it became part of the basket. As such, the patch lost its tumas midras, because no part of a basket can have tumas midras. Instead, the entire basket, which now includes the patch, is a rishon on account of having touched the patch when the patch had tumas midras. If the patch is removed from the basket, it becomes completely tahor, just like any piece of the basket that broke off from it. The previous law applies where the patch was sewn onto something that cannot receive tumas midras, such as a basket. Next, the Mishnah will teach about a patch sewn onto an item that can receive tumas midras, such as a cloth measuring 3 by 3 tefachim. In that case, since the cloth is fit for tumas midras, the patch does not lose its tumas midras. Thus, the cloth is touching an item that is tumas midras, i.e. the patch. It is a rule that something in contact with tumas midras is a limited avatuma for as long as the contact lasts. This is called tuma bechiburin, tuma while in contact. Therefore, the cloth in our case is a limited avatuma while it is connected to the patch. If it, i.e. a patch that has tumas midras, was sewn onto a cloth, thus making the cloth an avatuma, for as long as they remain in contact, the cloth can transmit tuma to 2 levels and invalidate one additional level. That is, since the cloth is an avatuma, it can cause 2 levels of tuma transmission, i.e. food touched by the cloth becomes a rishon, and food touched by the rishon becomes a sheni, and 1 level of invalidation, i.e. if the sheni touches teruma, the teruma becomes invalid. If one then separates the patch from the cloth is no longer an avatuma, because it is not in contact with the patch at this time, but it is a rishon on account of its having touched the patch in the past. And as a rishon, it can transmit tuma to 1 level, i.e. it can make food a sheni, and invalidate 1 additional level, i.e. the sheni can invalidate teruma. However, the patch remains an avatuma even after its removal, and hence can transmit tuma to 2 levels, i.e. it can make a rishon, which can make a sheni, and invalidate 1 additional level, i.e. the sheni can invalidate teruma. The same laws apply where one sewed a patch that has tumas midras onto sack and leather. Like cloth, sack and leather are subject to tumas midras. Therefore, when a patch is sewn onto sack or leather, the patch keeps its tumas midras, as it does when sewn into cloth. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. According to Rabbi Meir, although the patch, which is made of cloth, is a different kind of material than sack or leather, the patch does not lose its tumas midras upon being sewn onto either of these fabrics. A different view. Rabbi Shimon rules that a patch sewn onto sack or leather becomes tahor from its tumas midras. According to Rabbi Shimon, since the cloth patch is a different kind of material than the sack or leather, a patch sewn onto sack or leather loses its tumas midras. The next Tana differentiates between sack and leather. Rabbi Yossi says if the patch is sewn onto leather, it becomes tahor from its tumas midras, because the patch being made of cloth is completely different from leather. But if the patch is sewn into a sack, it remains tamei with tumas midras, because like cloth, sack is a woven material. Since the cloth patch and the sack are alike in that both are made by weaving, the patch keeps its tumas midras while sewn onto the sack.